Well, on the back of losing to Tottenham in the Carabao Cup quarter-finals, Manchester United have been hammered by Bournemouth at Old Trafford, 3-0. The final score against the Red Devils, and things not looking good heading into the Christmas break for Ruben Amorim's side. Grella, there's a lot to pick apart from this performance. It felt like in the Carabao Cup, at least against Tottenham, they did show some character in that second half, didn't they? Where did it all go wrong for them today, though?
It's been a crazy, if you have to rewind a little bit more, right? Ten Hag gets sacked, right? And then Van Nistelrooy comes in, and Van Nistelrooy does a really good job, and then Amorim comes in. He's obviously done a really good job at Sporting CP, comes in, and everyone's like, okay, he needs time. He comes out and says, look, we're way behind where we need to be. This is going to be a project. It's going to take time. I think every Man United fan knows that. I think every football fan knows that. But also with time, it has to be progress and has to be small steps in the right direction. And so far, what he's done has been a little bit concerning. He's obviously left Garnacho out of the team. Rashford now with comments that he wants to leave the club. He's been left out again of the team. We talk about style of play, right? He's found a way to make Man United score more goals, but he's also found a way to concede a bucket load of goals. 17 in 9 games. You're not going to win football matches. You're not going to learn. You're not going to progress. You're not going to win over the changing room with conceding that many goals in that short amount of time with games. And when you think about Man United, or you think about the big clubs and the big teams and the big managers, the Ancelottis, the Capellos, the Mourinhos, Sir Alex Fergusons of the world, nobody will remember their style of play. Everyone will remember that they were champions, that they were winners. And I don't think at the moment Amorim has done that, and I don't think right now Man United look anywhere near that direction. What's
got to be on his to-do list then for this period and for the January window as well? Because Old Trafford was pretty much empty by the time the final whistle went. The fans are frustrated. Yes, he's come in and it felt like steadied the ship. He gave obviously the club a lot of hope as well moving forward. But there's got to be big decisions made. You mentioned Rashford. That's 3 consecutive matches. He's been left out the squad. It looks like his Manchester United days are completely over. What else is going to change?
You've got to find a way to get leaders in the group, because when you also think of the great teams, the Barcelonas, Milans, Man Uniteds of the world, even the Man Cities, they have 4 or 5 guys always that are big leaders in the group. They don't have that in the team now, so they have to find a way to either bring that in or create them, and they need them fast. They need guys that can lead the team. They need guys that are serious. And also, you have to get...
Do they have any right now?
I don't think they have many right now. Fernandes, you say, is the biggest leader in the team, and for me, he's one. Maybe he's one. So you say you have a half of one, right? And you need 5 or 6 or 7 when you think of the great teams and you think of the legends. And for Amorim, with your top talents, whether they be young or whether they be Marcus Rashfords of the world, you have to find a way to come in and make those guys work for you, because ultimately your success is going to depend upon how successful those guys are. So you come in, it's already rocky with Rashford. He looks like he's on his way out of it. So it's been a rough start. I understand it takes time. I understand it's a project. But right now, all I see is a lot of goals conceded, and I see a lost Amorim early on in this one.
I mean, even with Rashford not being part of the matchday squad, he's still at the top of the headlines, isn't he? How much, as a player, is that a distraction for the club and for Ruben Amorim right now? Because it's the first question he keeps getting asked every time he does an interview.
Yeah, Poppy, and it's an interesting one as well, because when you go to a guy like Rashford, who's been at the club for many years, who's found successful seasons, albeit in flashes, when you go against a guy like that, there's going to be kickback, right? And there's going to be, well, we call them rotten eggs or whatever, but there's going to be, with a senior guy, he's going to be able to infect the locker room, affect the media, affect the things going on around you. And if you're not, they went to Man City without Rashford and got the 2-1 result, it was like, oh, wow, look at Amorim, he's doing it and he's teaching him a lesson. But now when you're not getting the results and you can see this many goals, now people are starting to ask questions and say, well, what's going on there behind the scenes? And again, I know we had Troy in, and Troy was very hard on Rashford. But for me, coming from a player, it's difficult at times, because you don't really know we don't know exactly what's going on with Marcus Rashford. And if he talks, he's right away labeled, oh, he's a cancer in the locker room, he's a bad guy.
But the timing has been interesting, hasn't it? With the moments that he's chose to speak, and Amorim obviously did try to protect him to an extent. He came out and basically drew a line in the sand.
The other issue is that, and I think this is very telling of what they're going through, is set pieces. They're conceding so many set piece goals. And set pieces is about 2 things. It's about organization, and it's about personality. I've played with guys that are 5'5" that go and win every single set piece ball, and they go and defend every single ball. I play with guys who are 6'6" that don't like to head the ball. They're scared. You need the personality in the changing room, and you need organization. And set pieces are a huge part of the game. At any good football club, they'll always have a tracking of what their net positive or negative is on set pieces. How many do we score in a season, and how many do we concede in a season? And at the moment, it's early days. Don't get me wrong. I'm not giving up on Amorim yet. but he's got some job at hand, and he's had a very slow start.
That's got to be frustrating from the set pieces aspect. They've conceded 9 set piece goals of the 22 goals they've conceded in their entirety. Here's just a reminder of the results under Amorim since he came in, because he did have some big wins, including the massive one against Manchester City, which I suppose now take that with a pinch of salt given their form. Then he won in the Europa League, which I suppose has been a bit of a silver lining considering where they sit as well. But this is bad, isn't it? Not just the losses, but the amount of goals that they're conceding. Surely he's got to sort things out defensively first.
They were not scoring that many goals, so he's come in and the first thing he changed was, okay, we're going to build with 3. I think it's a fundamental part of football, a fundamental part of when you analyze any coach. Do they build with 3 center backs or they build with 2? Because it changes the way that the team looks. And he changed that, and they score a lot of goals. Right before coming into today, they scored 21 goals coming into it. So that's not been the issue. But I'll go back to what I was saying before. Nobody will remember Sir Alex Ferguson's style of play, Mourinho's style of play, Ancelotti's style of play.
Do they have good enough people, though? Does he have good enough defenders?
He definitely needs more. He definitely needs more than what's at his disposal. We had a good clip the other day, Mourinho saying, look, at my time at Man United, I was responsible of cleaning out, but I never got to move new furniture in. I hope he gets the time to move new furniture in, but at the same time, you know what Man United's style of play is? You know what Juventus' style of play is? You know what the top clubs in the world style of play is? Winning football matches. That's a style, because that's what the fans want. That's what the players want. It's a lot easier to convince players of your way when you're winning football matches. And when you're not, it becomes difficult. And at these clubs, you don't have that much time. Yeah, it could be said that you have a year and a half or 2 years, or your contract could be 3 years.
Surely he's going to be given a lot of time, though.
And he is, but at the end of the day, you could lose the locker room 2 weeks into this thing, right? It doesn't matter if the club gives you 3 years. That if guys are not following you and you don't have the right mix right away, it could be a long rebuild. And you look at some of the rebuilds. I mean, Liverpool's a great example. You look at what their rebuild was. Look how fast that's been. You look at Chelsea now. You know, we're making fun of them a couple of years ago, but look at Chelsea now chasing and with a lot of young teams and playing good football in the Maresca. And so these rebuilds, they don't need to take 2 or 3 or 4 seasons. They can happen quite quickly if you get them right. And right now, I'm not so sure about Man United's rebuild.
Just before we talk about Chelsea, what is a successful season for Manchester United? They're in the Europa League. They've got a chance in that competition, but it feels like week in, week out, who knows what we're going to see from them.
Well, coming into the match day, they were actually not a million miles off the top 4, which is actually incredible. So this was an opportunity. But as Amorim is trying to put his style of play, his attacking way of playing, trying to find out his 11, there's not one player in the team with more than 4 goals. He doesn't know if it's going to be Højlund. He doesn't know if it's going to be Zirkzee. He doesn't know if it's going to be Fernandes. He doesn't know who his guys are yet. And it's, you know, we're talking 9 games in, so you have to start to figure that out. But a successful season for me would be to try to flirt with Europe at the end of it. Try to get into the top 5 or 6 and see if they can get themselves into Europe. Because if they miss on Europe for a club of this stature, it's not enough.
Do you see it happening, though?
It's going to be difficult. Not if you're conceding that many goals. You know, he's got a bucket with a hole in it, and he keeps putting water in. You got to plug that. You got to plug that hole up first, and go back to a cliche saying, but defensively you have to be sound. To build anything has to be built from the bottom up, and defensively you got to be sound. It's part of a little bit what Pep struggles now are as well. He's so concerned with the results and with the football and with the personnel and who he has and who he doesn't have. He's bleeding goals. Every single week that he plays, he's conceding so many goals and so many easy goals. Yeah. And that's what kills you. In Pep's case, it's more on the counterattack, right? And with Amorim, it's on these set pieces, right? And these are things that need to be fixed before you address style of play, personnel, or any of that other stuff.